Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm checking out the EMAX Nighthawk 200. This is a 5-inch mini quad. It's a plug and fly. It's a 200 size and I just really like it. So I've been flying it the last couple of days and there's not much bad I can say about it. I think it does have a couple of design flaws. So first of all, let's talk about what you need to get it going, because as I say, it's a plug and fly. It comes with just a single servo lead that comes out of the top there, and that is set up for S-Bus. So I'm using one of the little XM Plus receivers, and I connected that to the servo connector, and then I just took these screws out here, and then I just tucked the receiver inside and then put the two antennas up the side here. So it is constructed in a fairly unusual way. We just have this huge carbon plate here and everything attaches to that, and then it's using this sort of plastic cowling here to sort of keep everything safe there. We've also got these motor protectors as well, but everything on here is EMAX. So we have got the RS2205 2300 kV red bottom motors that we all know absolutely scream, and then we've got individual 25 amp EMAX ESCs, which are flashed with BL Halley S and are compatible with D-Shot 600, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And the flight controller is a SP Racing F3, and we've got some LEDs on the back connected to the DIN so we can control them, and then we've got some LEDs under here as well which are just connected to the PDB so you can't control them, but they light up really nicely. And then we've got a CCD camera at the front. Looks like it's had the cowling replaced, and I believe it's a 2.8mm lens on the front there, and of course that is adjustable as well. And yeah, so the receiver that it's meant for, I think it's S-Bus, because they don't give you any instructions on how to add a different receiver. However, as it's a SP Racing F3, you can just plug all of your other receivers into it, but you will have to take it apart. Now, to take it apart, we have 4 screws here and then 2 screws on the top, and then you sort of have to bend the cowling out here, or you can remove 2 of the motors and then it just slides out. Now, there's no on-screen display with this one, so that might put a few people off because it's becoming a standard there, but it does have a voltage buzzer and a lost model alarm which is connected to the VBAT, so that's all that you need really. The only thing I will say is because the buzzer is inside here, then it is fairly quiet. I found that sometimes I was flying around and I let the battery go completely dead because I couldn't hear the buzzer going off, so just a slight downside there. Another slight downside is the way that the camera is mounted. We have got these 2 bolts here, and the nuts on there, they protrude upwards, and so if you want to stick an action cam on here, so this is my PRCJ mounts that I've got on here, then it kind of gets in the way of the camera. I guess you could stick some foam on there, but anyway, I just used this mount and cable tied it around these bolts, and that is in pretty solid, that is. But yeah, I thought that was a slight design flaw with the bolts there, but of course it does let you angle the camera to whatever you like. Another thing with this model is you're given a Pagoda antenna, so you are going to need a corresponding Pagoda antenna to fly with it. I've got one of these little shrunken down ones, but it's good to use the Pagoda antenna out of the box with this because it's really tall and it goes above the battery, so the reception is pretty good. Now, as this is a 200 size model, it's quite tricky to fit the battery in, so this is my Turnigy graphene battery, 1300 milliamp, and if you mount it on its side, so it's sort of longer but thinner here, then nothing gets in the way of the props. But you can see that everything is pretty close, so you have to be really careful when putting all of this together. So the props, they're really nice actually, and durable. So I've crashed this a couple of times, and they are, let me see, they are 5050 props, yeah, so a little bit more pitch on there, but plenty of power, of course, because we know these EMAX motors to be really good. So the VTX is a switcher. It switches between 25 milliwatt and 200 milliwatt. The only problem is, though, it's really difficult to get to the switch. You are really going to need to take this back battery strap out to get to it. It just sits there and you won't be able to see it on the video. The only thing is with taking this battery strap out is if you do that, you won't be able to get it back in without taking all of this apart. So slight design flaw there. But I did manage to get a little pin in there and move it. So in the forward position it's 25 milliwatt, and in the backward position it is 200 milliwatt. And then I've also had to take the battery off to show you the controls of the VTX as well, because the battery sits on top of there if you're using a 1300. So we have the one button there, and then we have the display there, and again it's 48 channel, so a short press goes through the individual 8 channels of that band, and then a long press takes you through the 6 different bands of the 48 channel. Now let's talk about the version of Betaflight that's installed on there, because it is a version that doesn't support D-Shot. So what I did was I upgraded it to the latest version, so with SP Racing F3 as the target, and then enabled D-Shot, and it was fine. Beat Al Heli S on there, but it just seems that the version of Betaflight that it comes with is not set up for that. So there is a couple of things you need to remember if you want to flash the latest version of Betaflight. They have changed the board orientation, so the board actually sits upside down on this model, and it's rotated 90 degrees. So you're going to want to put a 180 degree flip in it and a 90 degree on the yaw as well. So the best thing to do is just plug it into Betaflight before you flash it with the latest version, and just note down the board alignment, and then there's no problems there. So another thing that I did was I did a dump of the CLI as well. However, you don't really need to do that, because these lights here, they're just set up to flash blue. I have changed that so that they change when you arm the quadcopter. So yeah, no real need to save the CLI on there. And the PIDs for the latest Betaflight, they're slightly different as well. So I've just got the stock Betaflight PIDs on there, so I'll see how it flies with those. Now these motors here, they are actually connected to the ESCs via bullet connectors, so if you break a motor and need to replace it, then that should be pretty easy to do. I haven't seen any problems with the way that it flies with bullet connectors. Some people say that like it can cause a bottleneck or cause short outs, etc., and these seem to be fine. So one thing that I did notice is the motors aren't directional, so they don't have a arrow on them like a lot of these EMAX motors. So the spinners, they all spin the same way, but they are locked, so that is fine. We don't really need directional motors at all, which is good, because if we want to buy some more, then we can just buy all of the same. So let's see what else you get in the package with this. So it comes in this pouch here. Now the only thing I don't like about this is you can't store it in there with the props on, but I guess they wanted to make it smaller. So like I say, you get the Pagoda, you get just one set of props, and then we have got this bag here with stuff in as well. So we've got a USB micro lead, and then we have got the on-screen display controller for the HS1177. That's the on-screen display of the settings. So yeah, no on-screen display with this model. It's just to change your brightness, etc., of the camera, and that just plugs into the back there. We do have some instructions, but they are they're not great really. It doesn't tell you how to plug your receiver in or what receiver to use, but it does tell you how to install Betaflight. So there was no modes selected or anything like that, so I went in and did that. I also set it up to ARM on a switch as well. I bumped up my Super Rate to 0.8, which is something I normally do. But yeah, I didn't think the instructions were too great at all. So as I say, using the XM Plus receiver and my Taranis here, and then so I've got my modes on there, arming on there, and then lost model alarm on there, which was useful when in the long grass, and then using the Fatshark Dominator HD3s here, the DVR, so I can show you what the quality is like there, and then one of the shrunken down Pagodas and a AndyRC patch antenna there. Now I do want to talk about the weight, because I thought this was going to be fairly lightweight, but with a GoPro on there and my battery, it does come in over 600 grams. That's not really a problem though. I know models are getting lighter now, but most of my builds are around the 600 gram mark, so I shouldn't really knock it down for that. But I did think it was going to be more lightweight than that, because we have just this one plate here, but I guess we have these EMAX motors and that hugely thick carbon plate, so it's taking up a little bit of weight there, but I don't think I'm going to notice that in the flight characteristics, especially with these props and also these powerful motors as well. Okay, let's go for the line of sight with this one. Feels very lightweight, considering. Right, let's go for a punch. Plenty of power with those EMAX motors. Hardly surprising. Oh, this is nice. It feels dialed. Oh yeah. Gets away from me quickly though. This thing's gonna be fast with that camera angle. Oh, it just feels really locked in. Like I could just put it anywhere. Yeah, it dances around. I really love how this thing looks. It just looks so cool. And you can just take it out of the box and it's ready. And what's funny as well is, like, if you just want to potter about, then the things are pretty quiet. But then give it full throttle and we're into F1 territory. This thing is fast. Oh yeah, I like this. Just look at it disappear when I blip the throttle. And it really is a blip, because it's hovering at like, I don't know, 45%. Look at that. It disappears. Really snappy. Now, I always refrain from saying, oh yeah, this tune's perfect when doing the line of sight, because, you know, you can be flying it around line of sight and it looks perfect, and then you do FPV and you'll do one of those half backflip things and it'll wobble on the hesitation. But it's okay to me, line of sight. But we'll check it out FPV. Just the stock Betaflight tune on this seems to suit it. Look at that, really nimble. Oh, just changes direction so quickly. That is awesome. No disappointment here with EMAX. I think if they'd have put an on-screen display on this one, then this would have been like one of the top contenders for sure. Listen at that go. Right, well, I can feel a couple of raindrops in the air, so I think we'll come in for a landing and let's see if I can do some FPV with it. So just as I thought, the stock Betaflight tune on the latest version was pretty much spot on. I think it perhaps could do with just a little bit more eye on the pitch, but apart from that, I was really pleased how it flew. You have to remember though that I did upgrade to the latest version of Betaflight with this to take advantage of D-Shot 600, which I think most people will be doing. Now, as for the video reception on the FPV camera, I thought it was very good. Just a tiny little bit of noise filtering through from the motors, but nothing terrible. Now, the amount of power that this thing has got is incredible. So yeah, it's definitely up there with some of my higher end builds. The only problem is there's a lot of competition at this price point with on-screen displays and things such as the Fury Bead, Futon, etc. But with this model, I think you are definitely paying a little bit more premium for the brand. So EMAX, known for being a fairly good brand, and these motors here known for being top-notch motors as well. But I do think you could go cheaper than this, but despite that, this is a really nice model. I've been flying it around a lot. It's just really nimble, nice to fly, and practicing through these gates even though the grass is too long and I keep hitting the grass. But yeah, it carries a GoPro fine as well. And if you wanted to fly it without a GoPro, then it'd be even lighter. I think we seem to have found a Phantom 4 flying around here somewhere. By the way, there's no microphone on this, so if that's important to you, then yeah, this one doesn't have one, but I never use a microphone. I always find it really distracting, and there's loads of interference that comes through from a microphone that's using analog signal anyway, so I don't bother. So I was getting about a 4-minute flight time, which is normal for a 1300 milliamp battery. As I say, this is the Turnigy Graphene 4S 1300. You aren't given a battery in the package with it. But yeah, I really like this one, and I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one, and I will leave you with some flying. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.